Thanks for joining us today at Unstuck Your Business podcast.
You went into business with a passion to explore your skills and talents and show the world what you can do to contribute into our society and into our economic ecosystem. But a couple of years into the business and your drive and motivation has dwindled, and now you feel stuck.
When you find yourself at this crossroad of thoughts and emotions, how do you deal with it? In this podcast, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of entrepreneurship to help you unstuck your business. We are your hosts, Inés Nazario Vega from Business Essentials Virtual Assistant
and Edith Duran from Reason Marketing.
Today on Unstuck Your Business, we're joined by an extraordinary woman who is redefining what confidence and leadership truly look like. Simone is an international speaker, award-winning author, and confidence expert whose work has inspired audiences around the world. She's the best-selling author of The Extraordinary Unordinary You, co-host of the globally ranked podcast Her Unshakable Confidence, and a two-time TEDx speaker featured on major media outlets like ABC, NBC, CBS, Entrepreneur, and Yahoo News. What I love most about Simone's work is this. She doesn't teach confidence as performance. She teaches it as identity. Her recently released book, Real Confidence, launched in February, offers a practical and deeply human approach to quieting self-doubt and leading with clarity and self-respect. From raising 6 children to submitting Mount Kilimanjaro, Simone brings lived experience, honesty, and what she calls kitchen table leadership, the kind that happens in the messy, unseen moments of everyday life. Today, we're talking about why work-life balance might be a myth, how women underestimate their leadership daily, and why you don't need to become someone new to grow your business. You simply need to see yourself differently. Simone, I'm so excited to have you here as our guest on Unstuck Your Business. Just going through your introduction, I'm so intrigued and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we have her as a guest on our show. If you would, Simone, would you please tell our audience, even, we've told them quite a bit, but I'd love to hear it from you. Tell them more about you, your background, and what it is you do today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here today. So I am a keynote speaker, author, podcast host. I host a podcast with my 23-year-old daughter called Her Unshakable Confidence. And I help women really go from unsure to unshakable. I mean, that's the whole goal is that we struggle, and it's focusing on really helping other people realize what they're capable of. And I did not start in this field. I was an accountant by education. I was a CPA. I've done many things over my life. I'm a big believer in that it's okay to change your mind. And I started speaking about 6, 7 years ago, and it's just been busy since then, which is amazing.
Wow. I'm really intrigued by that, the fact that you say you were an accountant. I find that really interesting because, as a matter of fact, I work with many accountants in marketing. And this is probably kind of off, but was something I have found in my work with accountants is that analytical mind that goes into finding those patterns. It just really comes in, at least me, being the outsider looking in. I'm like, there she goes again. She's, identifying issues, and it has nothing to do with accounting, and finding the solution to it. So I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's been my interpretation and working with so many different accountants in my field.
I like that. I like that. I haven't really thought about it like that, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
So, without delaying any further, because I really want to talk about some of your background and some of the things we touched on in your intro. You talk about real confidence. What makes confidence real, in your opinion? And how is that different from confidence that most entrepreneurs are looking at?
Yeah. So I think so often confidence is performative, right? We feel like we have to look a certain way, behave a certain way, and that will bring us confidence. And most of the time, it's a facade that people have up, right? We look at other people and say, oh, they're so confident, and I'm just not. And that's not how it works. It's a skill that you build like any other skill. And so that's why it's so important, especially for entrepreneurs, to really work on it like any other skill. You don't go to the gym one day and become buff. I mean, although that would be amazing. You don't study a foreign language one time and become fluent, right? It's the same with your mindset. You don't say, oh, today I'm going to be really confident, and that's how it happens. It's something that you work on. It's something that you practice. And that's why it's so important for especially entrepreneurs, because right, there's so many different hats that you have to wear. And if you start doubting yourself at every turn, it's really hard to be successful.
No, I completely get that. But that performance aspect of it, as you said, I feel like that's the driver that it motivates people to work on their confidence. Where's that flip to where you see, that's not real confidence. This is real confidence.
Yeah, I mean, it's internal, right? It's not pretending. And I think so often we do pretend like we feel horrible on the inside, but we pretend on the outside that we're really strong. And that's not how it should work, right? Because if you're not feeling good about what you're doing, then it's very hard to move forward.
Right. But in that journey of, okay, now I'm in my journey of gaining confidence. I know there's going to, it's not a straight line. There's going to be ups and downs. But, for that woman business owner that's juggling everything, life, kids, family, and now a business, and the business is probably what she's most passionate about right, at the moment, because it's her own creation. But then, all of the other things might feel like they're falling short. The work, now it feels like, okay, now I'm only 50% out at home. Now I'm only 50% at being a mom. Why do we do that? Why do we underestimate that what we're doing is, leading all these different areas, and put that doubt into how we can lead our business?
I mean, we're expected to do everything, right? You've got to be the perfect mom, and you've got to be amazing at work, and you have to do all the things. And oh, you don't need any sleep, right? You can do it all. And it's a lot of pressure. And so for me, the idea of balance just doesn't exist. You're always going to be giving more to one thing or another at a certain point in time. So there have been times where, my book launch, for example, I mean, that was 3 months of nonstop, literally from first thing in the morning until, probably 10 o'clock at night, I was on my computer working and working. And, even my husband's like, you're so boring right now. And I was like, thank you so much. But, so that wasn't balanced at all, but that's what I needed to be doing in the moment. And I think we put so much pressure on us to say like, oh, you have to be balanced, right? Like who created that, right? That everything has to be balanced, and it's really hard to do. So, I mean, you definitely need to have time for self-care. Like that is key. And I think it's really good for people that have kids, for your kids to see that you can accomplish anything that you want to if you put in the work, right? And there is a give and take. I mean, that's how it works. But yeah, societal pressure says, oh, no, you have to do it all, and it has to be all great all the time. And that just doesn't happen ever.
Right. In that example that you just gave, where even your husband says, you're kind of boring right now. I mean, and I feel like it maybe in a moment you took that in stride, and and didn't take it negatively. But I can also feel how just a comment like that, when you're kind of already stressed and doubting your own skills, how do you take a comment and not like turn that into guilt? Like your kids telling you, Mom, I just, I was really hoping you would be there. Like, and you have a major deadline. Like, how do you navigate through those feelings that are just bound to come up?
Yeah, I think it's really being honest about it. So when he said that, I was like, I'm boring right now, but I won't be in another month. So, I need that space to get in. And, he was honestly kidding,
Yeah.
but, he knew that I needed, if I wanted to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, that I had to put all the work in for it. And the same thing with my kids. Like there have been many times where I've missed stuff and I can't feel guilty about it because then I'm just going to feel bad all the time. I can say, and I always lead with something like, "Hey, I have a speaking engagement on this date. It's a big deal. I have to be there, but we can celebrate something, whatever it is. I mean, I usually don't miss birthdays, but if whatever it is, we can celebrate it a different day." And they've never not been okay with that, right? They're like, "Yeah, I get it," and because they have stuff that they prioritize on certain days as well, and it's not necessarily me. So I think that it's that understanding that as long as we talk about it, if we just don't show up to things, like that's a different story. But if we say, like, here's what I'm doing, here's why I'm doing it, and let's plan a different day to celebrate and really spend time together.
Mm-hmm. So that gets me, I mean, that's a great setup into my next question for you about work-life balance. You've said that it may actually be a myth, and by what you're describing right now, it sounds like what you're doing is really just designing your life in a way that everyone gets the attention that they deserve from you, but it may not always look like, you know, the way that it's supposed to fall, meaning like you're actually present at some, performance at school instead of going away to do a speaking engagement. Instead, it looks like, okay, I'm gonna give it the importance it needs. It just may not be on that same day. I mean, I don't know if I'm describing it correctly,
Yeah.
but what's your take on work-life balance?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a myth because we're striving for something that's unachievable, right? I mean,
Mhm.
because we're talking about balancing work with self-care with your family. So there's so many pieces to that you do. I think it becomes stressful when you're like, okay, everything has to get equal time. And again, it just doesn't work that way. And I think the strongest relationships really understand that like right now, I have to really focus on this because this is the goal.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that I'm ignoring my relationships, right? It doesn't mean like I'm not giving time, but it might not be as much time as it will be in a month from now. And
Mhm.
but we're so hard on ourselves to say like, oh gosh, like you have to do it all.
Yeah.
And I do think it makes us feel bad about ourselves because we're like, oh, so and so was able to make it to the concert, but I didn't. So I'm now the bad mom. And we just can't look at it that way because we have no idea what is going on behind their closed doors, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
look at other people and make that comparison and say, oh gosh, they have the perfect life and they spend so much time with their kids and this and that. And the question is, are they actually even happy doing all the things that they're doing? Are they
Mhm.
doing it out of obligation? So again, I think that it's asking those questions and giving ourselves some grace because life is too short to feel guilty all the time.
Exactly, exactly. So tell me, how do you make peace with those trade-offs that come up with leadership and ambition? Because I believe you've have had to miss big moments like your daughter's graduation, like,
hmm
but how do you make peace with that?
I apologize once and move on. Like I don't focus on it
Really?
because, it's already happened. It's in the past. And so
Mhm.
we can stay in that moment forever and feel guilty forever. But that's not what I want it to be. And I think if my kids see that too, I think that that's how they're going to lead moving forward, right? I mean, we
Mhm.
are modeling what it looks like for them. And modeling matters way more than managing. So when we're telling them something, but we're not doing it, right? What are they going to learn from that we're inconsistent? And so for me, it's like I missed a moment and my older daughter went and we couldn't be there. And so I got a video of it and we celebrated her and she was totally fine with it. Like she has never come back and said, I can't believe you missed my graduation.
Yeah.
And, it just was, we were traveling, we got stuck. There's nothing we could do. So, It just is. And if we focus on it for too long, then we never get out of that moment. And that's true of anything that we do in life. When we have a failure, right? When we failed at something, doesn't make us a failure. It just means that that didn't work in that moment. But if we focus on the failure and not what we learned from it and what we can do next, then we're stuck there forever. And so it's really changing our mindset. And when something doesn't go the way we think it's going to go, we need to keep moving forward.
That's beautifully said. And one of the things that I hear you keep bringing up is that this is temporary. Whatever you missed, it is not the identifier of the type of mom that you are, or the type of wife, or the type of daughter, or, any of those things. This is temporary. This is a one instance, and the rest of our time together can be celebrated. And, it's all about the quality moments. So I think, I also think that in a lot of ways, just in my own experience and the many conversations we've had here, feeling guilty can start to feel like a comfort zone, here I am again. And instead of fighting through that and having the confidence, the real confidence, like you talk about, of saying, that is not who I am. I am a good mother. Then I'm not going to let this, missing this one event identify me as a bad mom or a bad wife, or, whatever the case is. And that self-talk, I imagine, is also a big key to what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, the way we talk to ourselves, our words become our reality. So, and there's a lot of research around this. It's what you say to yourself really matters. So if you're constantly telling yourself you're not good enough, that's what you believe. If you constantly tell yourself that you're a bad mom, that's what you believe, and that's what you start acting like. And so, like, apologizing for everything, and oh my gosh, and then buying them stuff that they don't even need because you're feeling guilty. So, I think that's one of the biggest things, is that if you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself, right? We would never say horrible things and be so hard on our best friend, but we would do that to ourselves.
Yes. In a split second, you do that to yourself. And like I said, I feel like that starts to become like this comfort zone. It's where you fall every single time. It's like, okay, the gospel is said, I am exactly what they're making me feel. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because as you have talked about before with your own kitchen table leadership, you are in those leadership roles all day long, all night long, saying you need to someone needs to get nursed back to health. And maybe mom, I think you went through this recently with having the flu. It's like you're still performing and you're still leading even when you're not feeling at your best. And we don't give ourselves enough credit for those.
Absolutely.
For navigating that.
Yeah, we don't. And we need to change the way we see ourselves, right? I mean, we're not meant to do every single thing, right? I mean, I always crack up when people say, oh, you're a superwoman. No, like, I struggle just like everybody else. Like, we all, there's not one person I know that doesn't struggle with something. And you can't make assumptions about what anybody else is going through. You can offer help, but you can't make assumptions.
Hi, I'm Edith, owner of Riza Marketing, a boutique marketing agency in Orlando, Florida, where we have a small but mighty team dedicated to helping service businesses dominate in the Central Florida market. We begin by helping you discover your own secret sauce. That one special something only you offer and your ideal clients love you for it. When you take pride in the service you offer and the experience you provide, but feel your marketing message isn't resonating with the right audience, we can help. When you're at a loss for creating advertising that evokes emotion and prompts action, we can help. Or if releasing viewer-worthy content with consistency is an ongoing challenge, we can help. Riza Marketing helps you define your unique flair and deliver creative content on a dependable schedule. Online marketing is easy when you have a team of pros by your side. If you're ready to make marketing fun again, then visit our website, rizamarketing.com. riza.com. That's RIZA marketing.com. And schedule your free discovery call today.
I'm curious, Simone, was there some time in your life where you felt like this, there was a turning point, or have you always carried that certain confidence around you to say, I'm not going to feel guilty about this. I'm going to be who I am, and the people around me are going to love me for being who I am.
Yeah, so I had a big turning point because I did really struggle. And until I was in my 40s, like I never thought I was good enough. I doubted everything I did. I would talk about myself as just a stay-at-home mom, just a volunteer, just Rob's wife. And in 2015, I was asked to do something completely out of my comfort zone. And that was to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And that was a complete turning point for me. And I said yes. The old me said yes because I was the yes girl, constantly wanting that approval from everyone. And what I realized is that yes was life-changing for me. So I climbed Kilimanjaro with 16 people I didn't know. And yes, I made it to the summit. But it was really how it helped me change the way that I saw myself that made such a difference. Can I ask you a favor? Can we pause for just a second?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
My stomach is really, I hate to say it, but my stomach is really sick. So can I be back in like 2 minutes?
No problem. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so sorry. And, summiting Kilimanjaro was obviously a major moment, but it was what I learned about myself. So, because it sounds cliche, oh, she climbed a mountain and her whole world changed. But it did, because I realized I didn't need to compare myself to other people. I needed to focus on myself and understanding what I was capable of. And really what I came away with from that wasn't just me changing and really becoming my best self, but also seeing my kids change. And what's interesting is that I had several people say, well, do you really think you're going to make it to the top? No, I think I'm going to make it halfway. That's why I'm doing it. Thank you so much for your support.
Right.
And then the other thing I got was, don't you think it's really selfish to leave your kids at home while you go climb a mountain? You're not a climber.
Oh my God.
And I said, well, self-care is never selfish, first of all. And what a great thing for my kids to see that you can do anything that you want to do if you put in the work. Right. And then the third thing I got was, oh my gosh, you have the most amazing husband. And I was like, yeah, I do. And they're like, he's going to watch your kids while you're gone for 2 weeks to climb a mountain. And I was like, they're his kids too, right? So, but what I realized from that is a lot of times when people say something negative, it's because they can't see themselves doing it. And so if they can't do it, then why should you be able to do it? So now what I say to people is, come with me. Anytime I'm doing it, I'm like, come with me. If you can't see yourself there, do it anyways, right? Do it scared. And so I think that is a big change in mindset. And so that was a big turning point for me because I did change. And I mean, what I do now really grew out of that moment. And that's how I created my method that I wrote about in my book, looking back and saying, how did I go from really struggling to really working on myself and building confidence instead of assuming that it's something other people had and I didn't.
I really love that. That visual of watching you climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and of course, nothing is done overnight. So this took one step at a time. So one step at a time, you're like leaving that old you behind you and moving towards, and I don't want to say new and improved, just a wiser, more self-aware Simone, and in order to do that, because, for our listeners out there, I think it's important to note that this isn't an overnight transition. You have to allow yourself the time to discover yourself. And I think that's just, this beautiful opportunity that you said yes to, no matter the motivation behind it. But it was presented to you maybe because this was a gift from the universe saying you should experience this.
Yeah. And I really think that because it's so funny because I get that question all the time. Why would you say yes to that? And I said, I honestly don't really know. And, I give my two reasons because I was the people pleaser and also because I knew I needed to get out of my own way. And it probably could have been anything that came my way that would have helped me. Maybe it would have been running a 5K. I don't know. But this is what presented itself. And then I, said, why not? Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And again, for me, and I think everybody has a Kilimanjaro. I'm not saying go climb a mountain, but everybody has something in their life that, one, that they're struggling with, and two, that can really help them change the way they see themselves.
No, I think you're 100% right. Everyone has their own Kilimanjaro, and you can, you'll know when you need to say yes is either immediately or it's just that idea is just never going to go away, and you're going to be like, okay, I need to do this because in your own in your own life, I think that was a turning point, and you can probably even see this is what I was doing with my life before Kilimanjaro, and then after Kilimanjaro, all of these other opportunities here. I don't know, were you speaking before that point, or is this something that's presented itself after that?
I did a couple. I think I did a speech in actually, it was right after that. That's when I started speaking. And the idea that I had a story to share, that was something I didn't believe either. I was like, when someone asked me to speak, they're like, oh, you have an amazing story. I'm like, me? What story? And, I just didn't see myself like that. And now I look back and I was like, that's ridiculous. But that's what we do to ourselves, right? We look at everybody else and think that, oh my gosh, they have the most amazing life and I don't. And it's so not true. Like, we all have a story to share, and we all have a story that if we share it will change somebody else's life.
Yes. Okay. Simone, since I'll probably only have you for a few more minutes here, for the women listening who feel stuck right now in self-doubt, guilt, whatever you want to call it, what's that mindset shift that you would tell them they can make starting now?
Yeah, it's really about how you talk to yourself. It's about that voice inside your head. So I have my little mindset hack that I like to use, and this is something that I used on Kilimanjaro. I refined it since then, and it really helps anytime I'm in a moment where I'm like, oh, I don't belong here, or I'm not ready for this, and has a very creative title. It's called Control-Alt-Delete. And so back in the day, that was how we would reset a frozen computer. Now it brings up Task Manager. I don't know what it does, but Task Manager. And so
I can be down with the Control-Alt-Delete. I remember that fondly.
Yeah. And control is about awareness, right? A lot of times we're not even aware of the things that we're saying to ourselves. Like, we're saying negative things, we're thinking negative things. There's a research study out of Queen's University in Canada that shows that we have 6,200 thoughts every day. 80% of them are negative and 95% are repetitive. So day after day, the same negative thoughts on repeat. So it's becoming aware of the story that you're telling yourself. Is it real? Is it helpful? Most of the time, the answer is no. Alt is about alternative. Tell yourself a better story. Instead of telling yourself, or instead of saying like, you can't do something, yes, I can, watch me. Instead of asking yourself, what if I fail? How about when I succeed, right? It's, again, your words become your reality. And, we just finished the Olympics. Do you think that the athletes go to whatever they're doing, for example, the top of a ski run and say, okay, you're going to do a horrible job. This is the worst, this is going to be the worst run of the day. No, they don't do that, right? They tell themselves, they visualize it. They tell themselves what they're capable of in a positive way. And it's not toxic positivity. It's real. They put in the work. They know that they're capable of doing this. And then finally, delete. Delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. Delete the comparison game. Delete the belief that you're not enough. Delete the idea that you need to wait until you feel ready. And this is a huge one for entrepreneurs. And I love to say that waiting until you feel ready is like waiting for IKEA instructions to actually make sense. It is not going to happen, right? Do it scared, do it now. And then, so anytime I have one of those thoughts, I call it the what if whisperer. What if you fail? What if they judge you? I control alt delete it because I'm like, that is not real. So, but the awareness is the biggest piece to me, is because so often we go through life just talking down to ourselves and we're not even aware that we do it because it's become such a habit.
Oh my gosh. I love that. The control alt delete. It's so easy to remember and apply that quick. It's like, that 5-second mindset reset that we've heard about, but now you actually have like a process to it. It's like in those 5 seconds, you can control alt delete and, just reset yourself.
Yeah, reset. I mean, we're like a computer. Our brain's like, and sometimes it just goes crazy, goes haywire. And you're like, okay, no, this is not real. Like, come back. What is real? What do I know about this situation?
I feel like what we talked about today is it's so prominent, not just in women juggling their entire life, but when you're even in just a business setting and you're either just getting started, maybe you're in your first or second year, there's also all those self-doubts and I know for myself, I think back when I was in my first couple of years, I was also saying yes to everything, being that people pleaser, volunteering my time at the chambers, going to all of these events on, spending weekends doing the events because I felt like, I needed to be present and demonstrate myself as a serious business person instead of actually spending time on my business and really building it from like, this is of course all hindsight, but I feel like the method that you're talking about today, it doesn't just have to apply to your, the work-life balance and balancing your work and your life, but also the confidence that you have in being who you are within your own business. So,
yeah.
I don't know. That just came to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we so often we are doing all of these things, we have like, and what do we really need to be doing? We need to be working on our business, right? Yes, we need the networking. We need to meet people, but we have to kind of look at that. Like, why are we doing things, right? Is it because we're really building authentic relationships with people? Or is it just surface level thinking that, oh, maybe they might hire me? And if you're building real relationships, then that matters. But I think that if you're doing it thinking, okay, this is just the only way to get business, I think we have to rethink things.
Right. So, Simone, if we were sitting at your kitchen table right now, and you were giving one piece of leadership advice to the woman building her business while juggling, real life and those other situations that wants to draw in her time, what would you tell her? What would you say?
So I would say, first of all, that you're a leader, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. We've been sold this very narrow view of what leadership is. It's the title, it's the corner office. And I think that leadership is what happens every single day. The decisions that we make every single day are leadership decisions, but nobody's ever called it that, so we don't see it that way. So think about when you sit around the kitchen table, like the advice that you're giving, the questions you're asking, the questions you're answering, that's all leadership. And we need to see that differently. And so what I would leave your listeners with is that, again, we don't need to change who we are. We need to change the way we see ourselves. We're all leaders, right? And we have to look at ourselves differently.
That's fantastic. So, Simone, before we leave today, would you tell our audience how they can connect with you?
Absolutely. So best way to find me is my website, SimoneKanego.com, which is SIMONEKNEGO. You can find my books, my second book is at realconfidencebook.com. The first book, The Extraordinary Unordinary You can find anywhere that you get books. And then if you want to listen to the podcast that I have with my daughter, it's called Her Unshakable Confidence.
Her Unshakable Confidence. And for our audience, we will be linking to all these references within our show notes, because I encourage all of you to take a look at the books and listen to the audiobook. I know that I will be hunting down your podcast after the show, because I'm very curious about the dynamics between you and your daughter. I also work closely with my oldest daughter, and so I don't know, I'm intrigued by that relationship.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun.
Well, Simone, thank you so much. I'm honored to have you here as a guest. And I would love to have you back on at some point, because this was such a great conversation. So
yeah, I would love that. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for having me here.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you. Let us know what you think about today's topic by leaving us a comment and a review of our podcast.
And if you found some value on the information shared in this podcast, please subscribe and share. And you can find us on our Facebook page, Unstuck Your Business, and join the conversation and engage with other entrepreneurs, as together we help each other unstuck our business. Until next time.
Until next time.